Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My pranams to revered Swami Atmarupanandaji and namaste to dear Swami Harinamanandaji. It's really a tribute to Swami Harinamanandaji's organizational skills and his team that this wonderful retreat has been put together. I came in at about 3 p.m. 3 a.m. We are caught with the usual East Coast weather in New York, and and also I've been traveling a lot. A couple of days ago I was in the Bahamas, not for a cruise. There were talks on Vedanta, and I went to New York, and then I'm here now within, say, 48 hours. So what I mean is, what I'm going to say now, don't take it too seriously. It could be me talking, or it could be the jet lag or something. Advaita Vedanta, there's something unique about this path. I think we should start by seeing what Advaita Vedanta is not. And then we go into Advaita Vedanta. In spiritual life, depending on how we construct the problem or how we construe the problem, the solution also will be according to that. By which I mean, there's the path of faith and devotion, where the problem is that there is God, but you don't believe in God, you don't have faith and surrender and love to God. And the solution is obviously belief in God. From disbelief, one comes to faith. And we hear so many such stories of people gaining faith in religion, getting their faith back in religion. And we develop love or bhakti for God and surrender to God. So this is one path, the path of faith. If you want to play the skeptic, it's very easy to play the skeptic in this path, because especially today, in this age of new atheism, Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris. By the way, I was in the Bahamas, and the place I was giving talks, I met a very interesting gentleman, Marcus du Sautoy. He is in Oxford University, a mathematician, but he occupies that same post which for propagation of science and the scientific worldview, same post which Richard Dawkins held until recently. And so I asked him, what are you doing in a spiritual something that Richard Dawkins would never come to. So he said, I have changed the approach. One is a militant opposition to anything religious or spiritual, which was the path that Richard took. And he says, what I do is, I take an open mind. We can learn from the spiritual traditions of the world, and also, an exchange of views from the scientific community to other communities. So which I think is a wonderful approach. That's one, a path of faith and devotion. But there's another path, what I might call the path of the mystic. The path of the mystic says that no. The problem is not that you do not have faith. The problem is that the mind is distracted, disturbed, and if you could calm the mind down, if you could concentrate hard enough, the spiritual truths would be revealed to you. The path of the mystic is to experience, to directly experience this reality. Not just believe in it, but to experience it. As Swami Vivekananda put it when he came here, if there is God, I must see him. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. So have direct, mystical, extraordinary experiences which prove to us the truth of these claims of the spiritual path, not just believing in it. And so to have those experiences, it's not so much faith, but a certain set of spiritual practices which will give us those experiences so that we see for ourselves that this is true. Now, what I'm going to speak about, Advaita Vedanta, if you are going to see the uniqueness of this path, it's neither the first one, not the path of belief or faith. It's not even the second one, not the path of mystical experience either. You see, it's important to say this at the outset so that we know that we are in something different here. In Advaita Vedanta, the problem is construed in this way. Ignorance is the problem, not lack of faith, not even a disturbed or distracted mind. Those are problems, but they are not the real problem. The real problem is ignorance. We do not know. What is it that we do not know? The path of Advaita Vedanta says, we do not know what we truly are. We do not know the nature of reality, the reality of this universe which we are experiencing, the reality of God which you may or may not believe in, but most importantly, your own reality. What are you? Not even who are you. I've been giving talks about this, and often these talks are called, Who Am I? Until a teacher said, a Swami in India, he said, it's actually not so much who am I, because who am I is also very personal. And this person or that person, who? But it's more, what am I? What am I? What are we? What's going on here? What's the point of all of this? So if you investigate the reality about ourselves, the claim is we do not know, we think we know, but we do not know what we are. And there is a process or a set of processes by which we can investigate and find out what we are. So in spiritual life, the journey can be one of disbelief to faith, or from not experiencing to experiencing, or from not knowing to knowing, from not realizing this to realizing it out about ourselves. So Advaita Vedanta is a path where the problem is ignorance and the solution is knowledge. Ignorance about, not ignorance in general. Ignorance in general can only be solved by knowledge in general. You read an encyclopedia and so you know lots of things. Not in that way. Here what is meant is ignorance about what we are. To put it in another way, in Advaita Vedanta, and by the way, because I'm drawing distinctions, I'm saying all of these things. But what I said is not entirely true also. Because if you question it further, the path of devotion, path of love, is it not a path of experience also? It's also a path of experience. Especially in India, if you look at the lives of the devotees from Mirabai to Sri Ramakrishna, and all of them, ultimately it all culminated in the mystical experience. For Ramakrishna, it culminated in the mystical experience of Kali, of the Divine Mother. The devotees of Krishna get visions of Krishna, the devotees of Christ hope for and get visions of Christ, and so on. So it is also a path of mystical experience. Is the path of mystical experience not a path of faith? There must be some faith. It's a long and arduous process of meditation, and to sustain you must have a belief that this works. And is Advaita Vedanta not a path of devotion and faith? It is also a path of devotion and faith, primarily of knowledge. That's the distinction I want to make. There is a story in Vrindavan, which is the city of Krishna, where it's a place of devotion. Now, there was a non-dualist teacher, and this monk who was a Vaishnava monk, a devotee of Krishna, love of Krishna, a path of devotion and love, he decided to switch to the path of knowledge. And so he came to this non-dual teacher and he said, look, all that is sort of belief, it doesn't appeal to me. It's all based on belief, Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. And so he comes to the path of the non-dual teacher. He says, please teach me. And the first class is, of course, the foundations of the Advaita path, which we're going to do now. And as you shall see, as we go down the path, one of the things they talk about are the sixfold treasures, Shama, Dhamma, we'll see what those are, Uparati, Samadhana, Titiksha, and, if you know, Shraddha, a faith in the teachings and the teacher, that the teacher is not telling lies and the teachings have something to them, a kind of working faith. If you go to San Diego University, you need to know that the textbooks are not fake and the teacher is not lying to you. So you have that kind of feeling. So that kind of faith is necessary for any kind of endeavor. But anyway, when this non-dual teacher said, the next requirement is Shraddha, faith, and this Vaishnava monk got upset. What? Faith here too? Kya yahan bhi Shraddha? In this place also faith? Then what fault did my little Krishna commit? My beloved Krishna, what fault did he commit? I'm going to go back there. So yes, there is faith in this path too. Um, Another way of seeing what this is all about is Advaita Vedanta tells us that the reality which we are looking for, what our own reality, is here and now, is right here, right now, it is you yourself. Advaita Vedanta does not talk about a journey in space. Where is this ultimate reality? Where is this claimed, solution to our problems, salvation, moksha, freedom, whatever it is? Where is it? Is it some other place? You go to that place, heaven, and then only you get it. Vedanta says, no. Not there. It's not a question of here and there. It's everywhere, and specifically it's here, right now. It's here. Is it a journey in time? That now we are miserable little creatures, but then means maybe after death, or after some mystical experience, after something happens. Yeah. After that, look at the word after, a time word. After that, I'll be fine. Right now, I am not fine. It seems to be obvious. It seems to be obvious. That's why Advaita is difficult. Not that it's, the teaching is very simple and very direct, but because of its utter simplicity and directness, that's why it eludes us. Because it seems to be obvious to us we are not fine. If I were enlightened, why would I be sitting here listening? I would be talking to you. So you would feel that, so I'm not fine in some way, and then I will be fine. Isn't that what religion is that? Religion is that. After the millennium, or after samadhi, or after going to heaven, after death, after something. Vedanta says, startlingly enough, no, not after. Right now. Right here and right now. It's not a journey in time. It's not a journey in space from one place to another, from earth to heaven, or from here to Varanasi, or to Mecca or Jerusalem. No, it's not a place going to a certain place, or waiting for a certain time. Is it some object? I have to attain something called God, or some state. Is nirvana or moksha a certain spiritual state? Even many sophisticated approaches seem to make it out to be a certain state we have to attain. I'm in a state right now, I have to attain to that state. It's not a journey from one object or state or place or a state to another. So three things. It's not a journey in space. Spiritual life, according to Advaita, is not a journey from here to there. It's not a journey in time. It's not a journey from now to then. It's not a journey from one object to another, from I to that, or from I to you. No. It's here, it's now, and it's you. It is our own inner self. Then immediately the question comes, if that is so, why don't I see it? Why don't I feel it? Why don't I realize it? If it's right now, I don't feel it. If it's right here, I don't see it. If it's I myself, I don't feel too good. So, the answer in Advaita is, yes, it is here and now, and it is we ourselves, but we do not know it. We do not realize it. So in Advaita Vedanta, if you want to call it a journey at all, not a journey in space, not a journey in time, not a journey from one object to another, but it's a journey from not knowing to knowing, from not realizing to realizing, from ignorance to knowledge. Taking a step back, what is it all about? I know we are all spiritual seekers, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But what is it all about? I was reading an interesting book recently. It's called A Brief History of Thought. It's an introduction to the history of philosophy. And I've read a number of such introductions to the history of philosophy. I saw, so what could be new? But what is new about it is, it's written by a French philosopher, Luc Ferry. And the interesting thing about the French is they're very independent in thought. And so they think less than nothing about British or American philosophers. So this little book is an introduction to the history of Western thought, but from a very French perspective. If you look at the recommended reading, you will see what I mean. At the end, usually in such books, you will see Bertrand Russell's History of Philosophy, or some such thing is recommended at the end. In this book, not a single book by any British or American author, any English-speaking author. from his, if you see the whole book, it's almost as if English-speaking, English-writing authors have contributed nothing to the progress of Western thought. So all the recommended reading is French and German. So, but anyway, my point is, it was a new and fresh look, and it really helped me. A new look at the history of thought in the Western world, starting from the Greeks down to Nietzsche and even down to Foucault and Derrida and everything up to now. And what was amazing for me, why I'm saying this is, he says, from what I got is, it's the same quest. It didn't seem to be, when I first read Eastern thought and Western thought decades ago, we were always taught, when we were taught Western philosophy, I still remember a professor, the very first class, making the distinction, because we are all novices in the training center, coming and saying, please do not confuse Indian philosophy with Western philosophy. We're now going to start Western philosophy. He was a dramatic professor. And remember, Indian philosophy, the word is darshan. The Sanskrit word darshan means to see. To see the ultimate realities. That's the purpose of philosophy in India. That was the whole goal, to see the ultimate reality of the universe and yourself. So that's darshan. Darshan literally means to see. But remember, and this is something that is done in every philosophy class. And that's what I thought till opening that book, the very first few pages of that book. And my view changed completely. That professor said, in Western philosophy, look, it's written philosophia. Philo means love, sophia means wisdom. It's love of wisdom. And it means thinking. Not seeing some kind of ultimate reality, thinking about things critically. Critical thinking about things in the world. And in this book, when I first looked, that's what I thought about it. So Western philosophy is philosophia, thinking, and Indian philosophy is darshan, seeing the ultimate reality. When I first opened this book, I was browsing in Barnes and Nobles. And when I saw this, what he had written, that's when I decided to buy this book. I know this is going to be different. First thing he writes is, so what is philosophy? We have always been taught it's thinking critically, and he says this is nonsense. Thinking critically is required in every subject. Why just philosophy? Why call it philosophy? He says philosophy, he says it comes from the original Greek theoria. I said, okay, so, and he says theo orao means ultimate realities, orao means seeing the ultimate reality. I thought, my God. It means literally what darshan means. Absolutely the same etymological meaning. Darshan means to see the ultimate reality, and theory, the English word theory, comes from theoria. It means to see the ultimate reality. Literally, exactly same meaning. And then he says, what is the point of philosophy? What are we trying to do? That's also something I really could not discover about Western thought. What's the ultimate goal? Because in darshan, in Indian philosophy, there is a point. How do we overcome suffering and attain ultimate bliss? That's the point. That's why the Buddha left home and became the Buddha, and that's why we do Vedanta, Buddhism, any kind of spirit. There's a point to it. Ultimate solution of human problems. Attainment of peace and freedom from suffering, especially freedom from the fear of death, from this birth and death, this problem. And here next he says, what's the point of it? He says, ultimately the point of it is death, and how are we to confront death, and salvation from the problem of death. Just about the same thing. So spirituality, the whole purpose of spiritual life, philosophy, is this. How do I overcome suffering, especially the background, that the great terror of death, the limited existence, that I'm born and I'll die. And if you believe in Indian thought, not once, many, many times. So this is the point. Advaita Vedanta tells us the solution is right there, right here, and it is ourselves. Our real nature, what we truly are. We are not bodies ever changing, subject to birth and death. We are not minds limited in knowledge, frustrated, overwhelmed by desire and frustrated by failure, subject to misery, dukkha. We are this infinite existence, consciousness, bliss, which does not die. There's no fear of death there. which is eternal bliss. There is no lack there. There is no unhappiness there, which is consciousness itself. So we are that, and to know this, I am that, is the solution to the ultimate human problem, this problem of death and suffering. So this is basically the idea in Advaita Vedanta. The problem is ignorance, the answer is knowledge. Now, one reason why Advaita is so attractive is, or two reasons why it's so attractive, is because, one, knowledge. It's sort of, you're suggesting, if I just know it, then the problem is solved. Know it seems to be much easier than I have to meditate long hours, I have to do hundreds of hours of community service, and lots of rituals and pujas and lots of yoga exercises. So all that seems so hard. And if I just know it, it seems so effortless. So that's the first attraction of the Advaita path. It seems effortless. Effortless. So easy. Just know it and that's it. And know it also, I don't have to read a lot of hard Sanskrit text. I just have to come to the retreat and that's it. I'll know it. And effortless. And the second great attraction of the Advaita path is, it seems instantaneous. You read about the lives of the saints who spend years and years and years, and the Hindu and Vedantic, Hindu and Buddhistic and Jaina worldviews talk about lifetimes of spiritual effort. It seems like such a drag. Years and years of hard work, oh my God. It seems almost too much. The payoff may be huge, but the effort required also seems to be too much. And here Advaita seems to promise instantaneous. Not even one day. It seems to say that instantaneous. A breakthrough you make, intuitively grasp it, it's done in a flash. Before and after, finished in a flash. And you're set free from the bonds of delusion. Is this true? Is this true? The answer is yes, that's the good news, and no, that's the bad news. Yes, when that breakthrough does come, it is instantaneous and it is effortless. Not only that, after that breakthrough, when you look back upon it, you begin to see, oh, why did I put in so much effort? It was always there. Why did it take long? It was always present, always here, I myself. It was just looking at me in the face and I never saw it. It should have been instantaneous. It should have been effortless. Some teachers are genuinely, they make some teachers, especially today, and especially here in the West, and especially here in California. Yeah. California has that reputation. I was attending a seminar on meditation traditions in, it was in Columbia University, and the professor of Islam, a teacher of Sufism, which has a lot of affinities with Vedanta. So this professor, Sulaiman Bashir, he was saying, so when we look at Sufism, he says that people are skeptical for two reasons. They don't seem to associate it with Islam, because one reason is, oh, it's so nice and so elevated and so philosophical. No, it can't be from Islam. No, wrong. It is from Islam. Second, they think that this thing, it sounds so California. How can it be from Islam? Somebody in California must have invented it. No. It is an Islamic tradition, and very much like Advaita Vedanta too. So when they do this, the teachers, they feel it is so easy and instantaneous, and they make what I may, with all due respect, make an error. They start teaching that it is instantaneous and it is effortless to the students. And they seem to sort of denigrate or downplay the practices. Just listen to it. Are you getting it? And if you look at the people who are listening, they're like, yes. Often what is overlooked is that these teachers themselves have spent decades and decades in very serious search. They've struggled a lot themselves. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, it's instantaneous. Yes, it's effortless. And no, it's neither instantaneous nor effortless. It takes a lifetime or lifetimes of spiritual seeking. The only reason is, the complication lies not in Advaita. The complication does not lie in the ultimate reality, in our real self. The complication lies in the apparent self. The complication lies in us, what we have generated over lifetimes, a cocoon of complexities that we have woven around ourselves, and which takes a lot of undoing. That's all. That's all. There's this story of the teacher, and the student goes to him, please teach me about enlightenment. Please set me free. And the teacher says, okay, stay here. He used to stay in a cave. You have to clean the cave, and you have to go to the village and bring alms. And so the student starts working very hard, but days go by, and end of 2 or 3 months, he says, this teacher has not taught me anything. Why am I hanging around, wasting my time? I shall go to some other teacher. And he goes to the teacher, teacher, you must set me free. Otherwise, I'm going to go to some other teacher. The teacher says, all right, come tomorrow. I'll set you free. So the next in the morning, this student goes, he's eager, I'm going to be set free today. And he sees the teacher standing outside the cave. There's this big old tree, and the teacher is grasping it like that and saying, set me free, free me. And the student says, but sir, just let go. The teacher said, precisely. Now, if I do not let go, if I'm holding on tight with all my might and say, free me, then you have to work really hard to pull out finger by finger and make me let go. That's a lot of work. The problem is the energy that we are putting into it in the opposite direction. So where is the catch? This first session is not about Advaita, not about the teachings themselves. It's about the foundations of Advaita. With these foundations, with the teachings that come, will lead to enlightenment effortlessly and instantaneously, I kid you not. Without these foundations, or without sufficient amount of this foundational work, the teachings of Advaita will, even if we get it, we just feel we have learned something very nice, a nice philosophy, or something really cool, makes you feel nice, and it's very, very fascinating. But the complaint will always be, you'll see this question, I understand what you're saying, but what do I do now? A traditional Advaita teacher would say, you haven't understood. If you have understood, you wouldn't say, what do I do now? And that seems like a way to make me shut up. But no, that's what happens. With these foundational practices, Advaita leads to, that Advaitic teachings lead to straight to enlightenment. Without sufficient foundational work, they seem intellectual. They seem like a fascinating intellectual game. So what are these foundations? I'll run through them. They are the well-known and dreaded fourfold qualifications. Here is the difference between the bhakti path and the path of knowledge, the path of devotion and love and the path of knowledge. If you go to the path of devotion, they'll never start with a fourfold qualification, even one-fold qualification. So at least you need to love God. No. That will also come later. You just need to make a beginning in the path of devotion. But the path of knowledge is a sort of Ivy League. You need to have very high SAT scores to get in. So what are these entry qualifications? I remember a very ancient university in Nalanda, which is in India, in the state of Bihar. The university started around 500 AD and lasted to around 1200 AD until it was destroyed by invaders. So it lasted for 800 or 900 years, 800 years. And I was just thinking, the oldest college in Balliol is Balliol in Oxford. The oldest college in Oxford University is Balliol, which started around that time, 12th, 13th century. That's when Nalanda ended. This was a huge university, 11,000 students at its peak, and each student had his, and usually it was his because it was a very patriarchal society, their own room, so it's huge. The reason I'm saying this is, they had an interesting system. all those students who wanted to study in this great university of the East in the ancient India, they would have to go through what can be literally called an entrance examination. At the entrance, the gatekeeper would be a pandit, a scholar, and he will quiz you on grammar and and some literature and some of the basics of scripture, some sort of a set of things. And if you pass it, then you literally get to enter it. I think that's how the name came, entrance examination. So that's the legend. So what is the entrance examination here? The fourfold qualifications: Viveka, Vairagya. I'll write it down for you. The sixfold treasure and Mumukshutva. So let me write down the words for you. The fourfold qualification. I'll give you the English meanings too. Viveka means analysis or discrimination. Discrimination not in a bad sense, not discriminating against somebody or the other. I'll say what it means, but analysis or discrimination. Then Vairagya, literally dispassion. And then Shat Sampatti, the sixfold treasure. Sixfold treasure. Shat Sampatti. And finally, Mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam. K-S-U-T-V-A-M. Which means an intense desire to be free. So Viveka, from which the name Vivekananda comes, means the discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal. Eternal and non-eternal. The Sanskrit roots vivich, which means to separate two things. In our understanding, if this clarity comes, that there is some spiritual reality, some solution to the problem of life, and that is worth having, compared to everything else in life. So the way it is put in Vedanta is Viveka is between Nitya and Anitya Vastu. Nitya means eternal and Anitya means non-eternal. Between the eternal and non-eternal. You'd say that, how do I know there is something eternal? We don't. We have heard about it. Teachers have spoken about it. The scriptural texts of different traditions speak about it. There is a solution to human life. There is. And we have some kind of working faith in it. All right, maybe it's possible, it attracts me, something within me feels that there is something to it. And as against this, everything else in life. So, spiritual life really starts when it is not one among many things. Viveka, V-I-V-E-K. It's not one among many things. Yeah, there is spirituality and my shopping to do and looking for a raise and a nice vacation in the Bahamas next year. And one of the things I need to do is spirituality. No, not in that way. The spiritual quest is first and foremost. This is my life. That might be possible for you, Swami. You're a monk. No, it's for everybody. The Gita was taught to Arjuna, who was a householder and a warrior in the nastiest business that human beings have ever engaged in, warfare. And there Vedanta is taught. So if Vedanta is taught in the battlefield, it's possible for us in any sphere of life. But it requires that commitment that I want enlightenment. The Buddha wanted enlightenment. That's why the Prince Siddhartha became the Buddha, in the quest for enlightenment. So we are setting out on that same heroic quest. That I want enlightenment. I want this wisdom, this darshan, this theoria. That is Viveka. The distinction between the eternal and the non-eternal. Second, Vairagya. Once the distinction becomes clear, then where do you go from there? I have a dispassion for the non-eternal and a passion for the eternal. I have a dispassion for the non-spiritual and a passion for the spiritual. I want to realize this. You see, it works for everything, whether the path of devotion or mystical experience or the path of knowledge, anywhere. You must be that this is the thing for me. I want to realize this. And all other pursuits in life, if you're a monk, you give it up. All of the pursuits in life, if you're in the world, you cannot give it up. You have to pay taxes, and you have to take care of the family, you have to at least to take care of yourself. So those are secondary, they become secondary. Even a monk in the Himalayas, the monk also has to go out to beg for his daily round of begging for food. There is a saying in the Himalayas, one of the names they use for monks is Maharaja. Maharaja means king, the great king. Now these people are beggars. We don't own anything, let alone a kingdom. So why are you called a king? So there's a saying in the Himalayas that these monks, they are beggars 1 hour a day, and they are emperors 23 hours a day. They are beggars 1 hour a day when they go out begging for their daily food. But other 23 hours they are Maharaja, because they're completely set free from everything in the world. Swami Turiyanandaji used to love repeating this. So Vairagya, what does it? How do you become a Maharaja? Whether you are a monk in the Himalayas or in San Diego, which, as we heard, it's no less than Varanasi or the Himalayas. But the foundation must be Vairagya. Vairagya is what protects us from the to-do lists of the world. Those are there; they have to be accomplished, but they are not primary to my life. Primary, they have only one to-do thing: to become enlightened. So that is Vairagya. Then, here's a little trick, an accounting trick. Shat Sampatti, sixfold treasure. It's supposed to be 1, but they have pushed in 6 here. So the total becomes 9 actually. So you have 6 plus 3, so 9, not 4. But anyhow, they pushed it in. You know that story about they were hiring somebody in the company, and the first person who comes in is an engineer, and they ask him a simple question: what is 2 plus 2? And the engineer quickly whips out his a sliding rule, and he does complex calculations and measurements. He says it's approximately between 3.9 and 4.1. 2 plus 2 is somewhere in between that, an approximation. And then a person comes who has an accounting degree, and they ask him, what is 2 plus 2? He gets up and quickly shuts the door and comes in a hush. He asks, what do you want it to be? What do you want it to be? So that's, you see, it's supposed to be 4-fold qualification, and then they hit us with the 9-fold qualification. There's the fine print, hidden costs in there.
You get one.
You've started already?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you the joke. Let me tell you the joke anyway, because I started it. In the Vedanta Society of New York, the system is that the Q&A, we give a talk, and then there's a Q&A, and the Q&A goes on until the lunch is ready. So somebody has to give me a signal that, from the back there, the lunch is ready, so no more questions. So sometimes I have to ask, is the food ready? And people have given comments in the YouTube section that why does he keep talking about food? Or why does he... Now, we had once a visitor from Vienna, Austria, this lady. She's a professor of music. She came visiting, and she said, I listen to those talks which are recorded here, and I like it very much, but my one unhappiness is I never get the food. So she finally came to New York, and then she said, I'm so happy, at least I'm getting the food now. She went and actually physically had the food there. So the Shat Sampatti. This is what is called spiritual discipline. Americans would say getting your act together. So what does it comprise of? 6 things. 6 practices. Sampatti means treasure. Shat means 6. 6 treasures. The first one is Shamaha. Shamaha in Sanskrit, it means quietude and inner calmness. If the mind is running after 101 things, then nothing is possible. No great thing, whether it's science or art or anything, is possible if the mind is scattered and running after many different things. So a little inner quietude of the mind is required, so that I can attend to. I have decided I am going to on the greatest adventure that a human being can set out on. the spiritual adventure, the quest for enlightenment. So I must concentrate on that. And that requires calmness, a certain settledness. And it takes a little bit of maturity to get that settledness. I remember reading, it's very interesting. Monasteries were always, we want young people to come and join, young people to come and join. Young people are not coming, whether to the classes or the retreats or trying to become monks or nuns. But I was reading Swami Ashokanandaji in San Francisco. Somebody was telling Swami Ashokananda that young people are not coming. We need more young people to come and join the order as monks and nuns. And then he said, no, we don't need that. Young people are too volatile. We need middle-aged people with a few decades of life and effort left in them. So they are people, but he has a point there. Shamaha means a certain quietude of mind which comes after maturity, having taken a look at the world and sort of seen that, all right, this is what is there in the world. Now what's worth searching for? What's worth putting my time and effort into? My limited time and effort into. I have very limited time and energy. Then next, Dhammaha. Dhammaha means control of sensory system. Dhammaha means control of sensory system. I haven't written that down yet. That comes in the sixfold practices. Shamaha, Dhammaha. If you want to write it in English, you can write D-A-M-A. Dhamma. And Shama, you can write S-A-M-A. Dhamma. Dhamma means control of the sensory system. A tremendous amount of energy and activity is due to the activity of our senses. Our brains are continuously engaged. I was just reading, it seems 1/3 of the neocortex is engaged with the eyes alone. You open the eyes, 1/3 of the neocortex becomes busy with absorbing information, filtering it, interpreting. 1/3 of our cognitive capacities. I'm amazed. I didn't know that. But it is true. The ancient yogis, they knew this. So control of the sensory system is necessary for any serious inner work. Eyes. I want to see. No. Want to see? You can see the Vedanta Society and the Vedanta text. That's all you're going to go see, buddy. So that's control of the eyes. Taste. Control of the taste. The monks, and this is very, very non-glamorous, but the monks, they have their conception of food is, there is a disease called hunger and food is the medicine. There's a disease called thirst and you drink water from the river Ganga, that's the medicine. Food and drink are treated as medicine. Somebody said, Swami, you're going to wipe out half the businesses on Broadway. If you take a monastic approach to this, if you walk down Broadway, Amsterdam and all of that, you'll see the two kinds of things going on there. There's food. New York is like one of the food capitals of the world. People, foodies love it. And there are clothes. There are clothes. Huge clothes, jewels. Now if you make up your mind, clothing is only one thing, this. That's it. Range of colors, dresses, no, this. That's all. You have wiped out 99% of the garments industry. And food is exactly what you get. Nothing else. You're not going to seek out this kind of food or that kind of food. Just enough to sustain yourself in. So that is Dhammaha, control of the taste. Remember, on all of these things, you can immediately see there's a spectrum. You can be an ascetic living on the bank of the river at 10,000 feet in the Himalayas, where you take these to the maximum possible extent. But there's a spectrum. And we are already on the spectrum. Don't think that, oh, I don't have any of this. What's the point? Why did I register for the retreat? I could have relaxed at home. No, we already have it. The very fact that we are willing to take the trouble of coming to this retreat and spending days and days listening, practicing, thinking, we already have it. Without that, one would not be interested. So we have these fourfold qualifications. Just you have to top them up. You have to keep an eye on them. A modern example will be when you drive, there are certain things you have to keep your eye on. You have to keep your eye on the road, you have to keep your eye on the speed, you have to keep your eye on the gas and things like that, on your mirrors. So these are the 4 things you have to keep your eye on when you're driving down the road of spiritual life. How is my Viveka doing? How is my Vairagya doing? how are the sixfold practices, and my desire to get enlightenment. Dhamma, control of the senses. Mostly it is eyes, ears, and tongue. Desire to see, hear, taste, touch also. Touch is an extremely powerful thing. Smell not so much. So the fivefold, the five sensory organs, but the five motor organs too. The desire to go from place to place. I have legs. Just because I have legs, do you have to continuously walk around? Just because I have hands, you have to keep grabbing things? No, I don't. Obviously, I use them when I need them. I remember seeing this old Charlie Chaplin movie. I think it was Modern Times, where they show the factory system. And Charlie Chaplin is, his job is to tighten the screws on the assembly which is coming. Each item comes, he has to tighten the screw like this. And that's, he has got a wrench. And all throughout, day, hour after hour, day after day, all he does is this. And there is a lunch break. So there's a siren goes off and there's a lunch break. But he can't stop doing this. He goes around doing this. And the foreman comes and yells at him, "Stop it!" I mean, there's no sound there. It's just, you can see he's shouting at him. And Charlie Chaplin takes his nose and does this. But there's a point there. Our sensory systems are actually autonomous. They have a certain inner intelligence to them. Our sensory systems and our motor organs have a certain limited, we can understand it these days, in the days of artificial intelligence and machines which have a little bit of intelligence in them. I heard the Japanese are big on this. All sorts of devices, they talk and they, everything. Including, I heard, horror of horrors, the commode in the bathroom. This, it can talk and it can... so, and our sensory organs have some autonomy. Just as an aside here, Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, he is a psychologist in the United States. He's written this book, The Happiness Hypothesis. In that book, he raises an important question. So much is available today in positive psychology, and if you go to the Barnes and Nobles, one of the biggest sections is the self books, promising good relationships, success in 30 days, losing weight and gaining focus, anything, all the things that we want from this body-mind system. All sorts of excellence is promised, he says. It should have revolutionized human happiness, yet it has not. We are not really very different. And the publishing industry has benefited, but I don't know how much we have benefited. He asks, why not? It's not that these books are false. They all have a nugget of truth to them. So why isn't it working? And he says, why isn't it working is, he gives the example of an elephant and its rider. It's an ancient Indian example. He says, the elephant and the rider, it's called a mahout. Mahout is the rider, the one who sits on top of the elephant. And wherever the mahout wants it to go, the elephant goes. But it works only if the elephant and the mahout agree. The elephant is much stronger than the mahout. So the elephant wants to go and eat the bananas there, and the mahout says, no, you have to go there and pick the logs in the forest. No. Mahout cannot do anything. The elephant is much, much stronger. It's only if the elephant agrees to the mahout's commands. Then only it will go. So what's the point? The intellect, our understanding, is like the mahout, is a rider. And the rest of the body-mind system is the elephant. The physical body is the elephant. Our emotions, perceptions, prejudices, the rest of it, other than the intellect. Now here is the problem. It's the intellect who goes to retreats and reads books and papers and gets excited about ideas and makes decisions about, this is the way I'm going to, this is great. I have to get up early in the morning and do yoga. Here are the benefits. I'm convinced, I'm sold. From tomorrow onwards, I'm going to get up in the morning and do yoga. When the time comes, the intellect is convinced. It's delighted. It's wonderful. When it comes early in the morning, it's cold and you're comfortable under the comforter. Time to get up and do the yoga, which the intellect has decided. The body says, I didn't sign up for that. It's your idea. You go and do yoga. I'm not going. The body is the elephant. And it never signs up for the fancy projects which the intellect, the mouth signs up for. It doesn't read papers, or it's not interested in the seminars, it doesn't read books, it doesn't get excited about ideas. It's the intellect which gets excited. And he says this is what happens to most of us. He says clearly, the sensory system and the motor system, they are not tuned with the latest ideas in our intellect. And it would be odd to think that. So what do they respond to? He has a very interesting insight, which agrees very well with these ancient teachers. He says the intellect responds to reasoning, it responds to ideas, it responds to teaching. The body mind, what does the elephant respond to? Not arguments, not PowerPoint. The elephant is not interested in that. The elephant responds to training. The only way you're going to get an elephant to listen to you is by training the elephant. And the body responds to training. The body is a creature of habit. It's easy for somebody to get up early in the morning and do yoga. It's terribly difficult for the other person to do the same thing. It's only a difference in habit, what you have trained the body to do. So the sensory system, damaha, training of the sensory system is necessary. Control means training, replacing dysfunctional habits with functional habits. You may think it's very difficult. What is difficult is making the transition. Afterwards, it's not difficult. As easy as it is for me to lie under a bed, so equally easy will it be for me to get up and do yoga once I've made the transition. Equally uncomfortable for me to lie under bed after the sun is up, because the habits have changed. Then you have what is called titiksha. Titiksha literally means, remember we are in the sixfold practices. Titiksha means spiritual toughness. Spiritual toughness, a spiritual fortitude. A toughness, a fortitude. Whatever you try to accomplish in life, life will make it difficult for you. Imagine the amount of trouble we put up for holding a job, for raising a family, years and years. Today I'm sick. I don't feel like going to pick up the kids. You never say that. They can walk home. I don't care. No, you don't say that. Even if you're sick and unwilling, you turn up at your job, you turn up at the school to pick up the children, and so on and so forth. That's all that is required in spiritual path. That kind of toughness and willing to put up with some trouble. Otherwise, what happens is, spiritual life is often a thing of fancy. Things are going well and I've got some time to spare, and here are some nice books and nice retreats, let me do that. When things are tough, these are the first things to be thrown overboard. No, do it the other way around. This is the first thing I will hold on to. Especially when things get tough, this is what I'll hold on to even more. I loved it, this Martin Luther, the Protestant, the monk who started the Protestant movement in Germany, Martin Luther. He writes in a place that his daily routine, he spends an hour kneeling down and praying in the morning. And he says when he has too much to do, too much work to do, he spends 1 more hour kneeling down and praying. So this is the insight. My strength comes from spiritual life. When things are easy, when things are tough, I need more of that, not less of that. Okay. Spiritual toughness, the willingness to put up with trouble, with illness, with unhappiness, with financial problems, relationship problems, weather problems, discomfort. I'm willing to put up with that in order to get spiritual, to go ahead on spiritual journey. Then, okay. And then you have uparati and samadhana. They go together. Uparati means, rati means a delight in the things of the world. Taste and sense and touch and seeing. Uparati literally the opposite. Step back from multifarious sensory delights so that the energy and time is saved, and use it for the samadhana. You need not write that, just hear that. Samadhana means focus. So, uparati means literally reverse the tendency to flow outwards for enjoyment. Turn inwards. And samadhana means stay there. Stay there. Stick to your meditation, stick to your devotional practices, and stick to the Vedantic inquiry. This is samadhana. And then we have Shraddha, which is a working faith. That these teachings, there's something in them worth pursuing. A working faith in the teachings of the texts and the teachers. That is Shraddha, a working faith, a faith that it is so. I don't get it yet. I will. Let me persist. And then the last one, Mumukshutvam. Did I get all the 6?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mumukshutvam.
No.
Shraddha. So we have got Shama, Dhamma, then we have got Titiksha, Uparati and Samadhan, 2 different ones. And then Shraddha. Upadana and Samadhana, they're 2 different ones. So that's 4 and 5. The 6th one is Shraddha, a faith. So this faith sustains you in spiritual life. Notice none of them are anything remarkable. It's common sense. Any great endeavor, you need to have these things. And you need to have these things for spiritual life too. The last one is Mumukshutvam, an intense desire to be free. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he says this last one is all that you need for spiritual life. He called it Vyakulata, a restlessness for God, a restlessness for enlightenment. I want it, I want it, I want it. That's all that there is to it. So why not just say that? Here's the problem. If I say go and eat, you say okay. But if I say go and be hungry, you scratch your head and say, how can, either I feel hungry or I don't feel hungry. How can I be hungry? Worship God. Okay. Love God. Love is not a feeling that you can create like that. So intense desire to be free. Either you feel it or you don't feel it. How can you generate? You can sort of simulate it maybe, but it has to come from within. It's like hunger. So here is the one thing I'll say before I end. There's a secret about these 4-fold qualifications. The secret is this. They are causally linked, not casually. Causally linked. The preceding one is the cause of the next one. What it means is this. Viveka generates vairagya. Viveka generates vairagya. This clarity that there is something to be attained in spiritual life. Then you would want to have that, and you'll have the power to dismiss other pursuits in life. So Viveka generates vairagya. And Viveka and vairagya together, they generate and strengthen the 6-fold treasures, the spiritual disciplines. They become strong when Viveka and vairagya are there. If Viveka and vairagya are not there, there are people who practice lots of spiritual disciplines. But Viveka and vairagya are not there, so they don't make much progress in spiritual life. There are people who practice ritualism, some kind of ritual practice, some kind of austerities, lifelong. They still remain very worldly and not particularly spiritually enlightened. Viveka and vairagya are causally linked. These 2 generate this. And all 3 together, or all 8 of them together, they generate and strengthen mumukshutva. If I have these, my desire for God becomes stronger and stronger. My desire for enlightenment becomes stronger and stronger. If these are weak, this is equally weakened. Practical point here. This is one takeaway. Remember this causal link? How to apply this? Whenever we have practical problems in spiritual life, identify where is the problem. And here is the secret. Whenever we have a problem, I can't give up my desire for such and such thing. I want it. I'm struggling with it. Here is the problem. We're struggling with it. Don't struggle with that. I have a problem with vairagya, dispassion for the world. And what normally the usual tendency is to struggle with that only. Yeah. This is the secret. Don't struggle with that. Go back to the previous thing and then try to strengthen that. Strengthen Viveka, vairagya will come. Strengthen Viveka and vairagya, this will come. Yeah. Strengthen these, the desire for God will come automatically. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.